Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Deepam Shah, founder medical director of Viva Aesthetic Clinic. Today, I'm going to give a very common outlook to most frequently asked questions which I as a doctor get asked before a hair transplant surgery.
Is bleeding after hair transplant normal?
So what I tell my patients is that during the entire procedure of hair transplant, you lose around 5 to 10 ml of blood, which is equivalent to the blood test you give. And normally in all my patients, you don't get bleeding after the surgery, but in very few patients, that's approximately 1%, little bit of bleeding is absolutely normal. So don't worry.
Will my hair transplant be noticeable immediately?
When you go for a shaven hair transplant or a complete trim look, people may come to know that you've undergone a hair transplant. But if you're doing a non-shave, then no one will come to know about your little secret.
Can I wear a hat after a hair transplant?
So normally, we allow the patients to wear a hat, but generally after 4 days we allow them because it takes approximately 4 days for the body to uptake those grafts. Before that, if you try to wear a cap and you forcefully try to remove, your grafts may come out. So that's why you have to be careful in the first 4 days.
Can I go outside or walk under the sun after hair transplant?
Okay, so what I tell my patients is that hair transplant is a life-changing procedure and you don't do it every time. So during the first 4 days, try to be very careful, avoid a lot of sun exposure, avoid going out in the sun, and don't go for some activities which may damage the grafts. So try to be indoors in an ambient temperature with AC on. That's the best way you can take care of your transplanted grafts initially. Later on, after 5 days, you can slowly start going out in sun with a cap.
Do I need to take Finasteride after a hair transplant?
So we at Viva and personally myself, I'm very open with patients. I discuss the side effects versus the effects, and then we come to a conclusion depending on patient-doctor understanding that what is best for you. In the long run, definitely I prefer to use Finasteride, but not for the transplanted hair, but for your existing hair to stay in place.
Can I wash my hair after a hair transplant?
Okay. So we generally tell the patients to have a head wash on the 4th or the 5th day. For patients who are international, who come here for a short time, we even do the head wash on the 4th day and they can even go back. And 5th day is also okay. So anywhere between 4th, 5th day is perfectly normal to do your hair wash.
When will I start seeing hair regrowth after the procedure?
This is a very important question because people do a transplant and expect very fast results immediately. But your transplanted hair starts to grow only after 2 months. So by the end of 3 months, only 15% of your transplanted hair has grown. By 6 months, 50-60%, and it takes approximately a complete year to see the entire grafts and entire results of transplants to be seen.
Can I go to gym or do my exercises after a hair transplant?
Okay. So normally I tell the patients that you should avoid any sort of rigorous activities or rigorous gymming till up to 2 weeks of the transplant. After that, you can slowly start with your cardios first, and after 3 weeks, you can start with your weights and everything.
Should I continue oral medications for a lifetime?
Okay. So this is a very important point which I want to touch upon. In the patients who are in the initial stages of baldness, in the grade 1 to 4, we have just transplanted hair in the front. But what happens to your hair which is behind? People generally don't take care of that. So medicines may be required for a longer time if you want to preserve your existing hairs. Transplanted hair does not require any sort of maintenance. So if you want to preserve your hair for a long term, medications can be taken for long term and it is quite safe, and generally we give vitamin based treatments.
Can I comb my hair after hair transplant?
So generally, as I said, that it takes around 4 days for the body to uptake those grafts, and most of the people have trimmed their hair. So there may not be any need for combing the hair for initial 2-3 weeks. But if you have undergone a non-shaved transplant or an unshaved transplant, I generally tell the patient for the first 4 days, avoid combing your hairs. And specifically in females also, because in females, we generally do no shave technology. So for the first 4 days, you will not be washing or even combing your hair.
Is PRP treatment necessary after a hair transplant?
Okay. So what I tell my patients that your transplanted hair are like newborn babies which are going to grow. So if you give them the right kind of nutrition, right kind of fertilizer, what will it become? It will become thicker and stronger, and it will have a long-term implication, like a long-term lasting effect if you do your PRPs during the growing stage. The simple analogy which I give my patient is like, if you give your child the best nutrition when they're growing up, they can have stronger bones and healthier bones in the long run. So this is the same concept of using PRP after a transplant.
How long does it take for grafts to be secure?
Okay. So normally I tell the patients that 3 days are very, very important for your graft to be uptaken by the body. So before 3 days, try to avoid any sort of activities. After 3 days, the body has taken up your grafts.
Will hair in the donor area grow back?
So with Viva's micro-FUE technology, where we are using very soft punches and very small punches, there is significant higher chances of regrowth. Normally, when you consult someone, they will say that transplanted hair, which are the hairs which you have taken from the donor area, will not regrow back. But with the micro-FUE technology, almost 25% of your hair which I have removed from the back will regrow back.
What is it in micro-FUE technology that hair can regrow back?
So in the micro-FUE technology, very technically I have to explain, then what happens, every root has 5 strands coming out of it. Because of the micro-FUE technique, I do it in such a way that out of your 5 strands, I'll remove 4 strands and I'll keep 1 strand there. So the 4 strands will come out, 1 will remain, and that will regrow back because of the natural stem cells which are preserved in that. So in the micro-FUE technique, that hair is almost regrown back because I've kept a small follicle inside of it.
What should be the water temperature for washing hair after a transplant?
So normally, in general also, I tell all the patients that transplanted or your existing hair do not like hot water. So try to be as lukewarm or as cold as much as you can do.
Can I go to work after a hair transplant?
So definitely with this micro-FUE technique or the advancement in the transplant world, I tell my patients, you do a transplant, take break for 2-3 days, 5th day you can easily join back your work without any problems.
When will I see final results of my hair transplant?
So generally it takes approximately 1 year for your hair to completely grow and to have a perfect look.
How long should I rest after a hair transplant?
Normally you generally need to rest for the first 3 to 4 days, that's it.
What are the success rates?
Okay. Success for everyone is defined differently. At transplant, what success we define it as, when I transplant 100 hairs, 100 out of 100 should grow, then it is called as a 100% success rate. If out of the transplanted hair which is 100%, only 50% grow, that means the success rate is 50%. Success rate in transplanted hair is not defined by the 100% result.
Do I need to use Minoxidil after a hair transplant?
Okay, so as I explained before also that what is transplant? I've just planted the seed inside the root. Now I need to give it fertilizer so that it comes out as the best crop. So Minoxidil is like a fertilizer. If you give it to them, it will come out as a thicker roots. Simultaneously, when you're applying Minoxidil, you are giving it to the existing hairs also. So your transplanted hair also gets the nutrition, even your existing hair gets nutrition. So definitely, I generally prescribe Minoxidil to all my patients after transplant.
When can I fly after a hair transplant?
So normally, you can easily fly back on the 4th day because of the newer advances, the micro-FUE technique, where the graft is so small that once we wash it, and the uptake also of the grafts is very fast. So by the 4th day, you are easy to fly back to your own country.
Can I drive after hair transplant?
Okay. So if you have on the day of the procedure when you have done a surgery, I would avoid driving on the same day because your head is a little heavy, you might feel a little pain. So it's best not to avoid because you need quick reflexes while driving. But on the 3rd, 4th day, when everything is settled, you can easily drive back.
Okay. After hair transplant, say about 1 year, after 1 year, can I color or dye my hair?
What 1 year? We can color the hair immediately, maybe after 3-4 weeks also you can color your hair.
How should I sleep after a hair transplant?
Okay, so normally the best way to sleep is by using the horseshoe or a travel pillow. Normally, after when you go to lie on your back, use a horseshoe pillow around your neck so that you are sleeping comfortably and you don't move much side of your neck. So sleeping straight with a horseshoe pillow on your neck is the best position to sleep.
What diet should patients follow after a hair transplant?
After a transplant, before a transplant, or in general for hair, a good nutritious diet rich in proteins, vitamins, minerals, amino acid, trace elements is always good. So after a transplant also, I tell my patients to follow the same diet, Except there is 1-2 things which I tell the patients not to do immediately after the transplant. For example, like opening a wide mouth, having an apple where you have to chew a big mouth, or a pani puri, because when you do a transplant, your muscles of the jaw are connected to the frontal muscle. So when you keep on chewing, these follicles may have a problem initially. So that's why immediately after transplant, avoid foods where you have to open a wide mouth, but on a long term, after 5 days, have nutritious, good quality food.
Can I cut my transplanted hair?
So transplanted hair is your own hair. They will be growing like your own babies or on your heads. So even if you trim it, you color it, you dye it, you shave it, even उखाड़ के निकालोगे तो भी ये उगेंगे. तो बाल काटना तो एकदम ही सिंपल है और करते रहना चाहिए.
How often should I wash my hair after a hair transplant?
As before a transplant or an after a transplant. Normally I advise my patients 3 to 4 times a week you should wash your hair, and that's the same rule which I follow after a transplant as well.